Hey people, you are now tuned in to Affluent Blacks of Dallas TV with yours truly, John the CEO. My thoughts and prayers go out to Nipsey Hussle and his family. You know the tragic story by now. West Coast hip-hop entrepreneur and entertainer Nipsey Hussle was silenced in my hometown of Los Angeles at his Marathon retail store on Slauson and Crenshaw. The timing is tragic, especially after I just got through watching some videos about this young brother's business acumen just a week prior to his death. So instead of rehashing theories bouncing around the internet about his death, I wanted to focus on the fact that a whole lot of brothers and sisters have rallied around what he stood for from a business and health and wellness standpoint. If you read my past article on another hip-hop entrepreneur, Dame Dash,
on the street, I don't put up money. Saving money's for suckers to me.
You'll recall that Dame is a strong advocate of us being in business for ourselves and not relying on banks to flip our money. Dame raised his children to be entrepreneurs.
I think the best way to become a boss is to take $20 and go buy something like 3 shirts and sell them for and make it into 40.
Not wage slaves, as he puts it. Though he had a cocky way of putting it, I definitely agree. We have to teach our children to do for themselves. Nipsey Hussle is a perfect example of that ethic. In my opinion, every brother and sister who wants to avoid working for the man and not being limited to the 9-to-5 corporate grind should carefully study past hip-hop entrepreneurs, including Nipsey Hussle. Nipsey gained respect in the music industry for being the first fool, quote-unquote, crazy enough to sell one of his mixtapes, Crenshaw, for $100 each and sold 1,000 of them, pocketing $100,000. Jay-Z bought 100 of them. Where did he get this idea from? From the story of a restaurant owner who came up with the crazy idea of selling a Philly Cheesesteak for $100. In other words, he thought outside the box, so Nipsey emulated that idea and it worked. Why did it work? At first, Nipsey was going to do like 99% of hip-hop artists do and upload his mixtape for free to a popular mixtape site. But after reading about that $100 Philly cheesesteak idea from the book Contagius, he realized that free is sometimes too accessible and not special enough. But when you charge an outrageous amount like $100, then a mystique surrounds your product and people with the money and means get curious as to what sets you apart. And it worked. Music industry heavyweights like Jay-Z took notice. Of course, your product has to be good enough once the big dogs get wind of it. Otherwise, they will tell their friends not to buy it and you will fail. Nipsey's product was high quality enough to be ready when opportunity came knocking. Another lesson from Nipsey's life is to always know your business before you do business. In the music industry, which I've been part of for some time in a few different ways, the ability to make real money started dying once Napster killed the game back in 1999. For those young whippersnappers who don't know what that is, Google it. And once streaming music sites took over, money really got tight as millions of artists have to compete for a slice of $9.99 a month of unlimited downloads. Being a smart brother, Nipsey decided to monetize his music in smart ways. In a Forbes magazine article in 2013, here's what he said about making money in the music business. It's time we acknowledge what we all know. The music is free. We shouldn't force people to buy it. What we should do is create different methods to monetize the connection. I agree 100% and have been advising aspiring artists to forget about making money directly from record sales, especially with the majors. Learn the basics of marketing anything. Try to find something you can sell and use your music to draw people into your world of products. Even though major record labels monopolize music royalties, your fans are lifelong customers if you have great songs and a great image and lifestyle. Young hip-hop fans tend to forget how important it is to learn from the past. By ignoring the rich history of hip-hop, you will repeat the same mistakes of recent failed artists about how to flip money. Go back and read how Russell Simmons first got Adidas to sponsor Run DMC. That was the first major shoe endorsement outside of sports in history. All because he created a lot of street buzz around the song My Adidas. But young artists who want to ignore this history are missing a valuable business lesson. P. Diddy parlayed his music into a big clothing line and business empire. Jay-Z and Dame Dash did likewise, as did many others from the past and present. Fortunately, Nipsey was a smart hip-hop entrepreneur who learned from the past. Part of that might have been his African heritage, where they learned from their ancestors. He learned from hip-hop entrepreneurs like Master P before he himself got bigger in hip-hop. He learned from the business of Jay-Z as well. Before music, he used to sell t-shirts on the street corner. Police would come by and shut his operation down. Then a tough black cop finally told him to rent out a store like all the other businesses, which he did. Slauson T-shirts was his first venture, followed by Marathon Clothing. Dame Dash also came up by selling T-shirts. And as you can see, T-shirts are still popular, so perhaps you should start a Shopify online store and look at the various Shopify apps for selling T-shirts online, or sell whatever comes to mind. An interesting story about Nipsey's business motivation came by way of the LA Times, which mentioned a time when the rapper felt some type of way at how he and other neighborhood youngsters were treated by the owner of Master Burger. The burger joint only had high top tables but no chairs, presumably to discourage young people from loitering. Later, Nipsey would buy the whole building, resulting in the owner paying him rent. This pattern of buying out neighborhood buildings and complexes and turning them into economic revitalization zones was part of his blueprint to reproduce in other major cities around the country. Finally, Nipsey established a STEM program called 90 Vector in the Crenshaw district to help Los Angeles youth in our community learn about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics/medical stuff. This is something that has been missing in many hoods around the country, so let's be sure to work to close this gap. There are many other business lessons to be learned from Nipsey, so I suggest strongly researching him in your spare time. As you probably know, Nipsey was actively developing a documentary on the life, trials, and death of Dr. Sebi. This is the same one who Lisa Left Eye Lopez of the famed girl group TLC followed, and there were mysterious circumstances surrounding her death as well. I won't go into a lot of detail here, as you can check out his videos yourself.
Oh, why we don't know about that?
Absolutely.
And you know.
And he just died mysteriously down there.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you know how they play.
Oh, yeah.
You know, niggas was tweeting me, Hustle, be careful, man. Your plane gonna go down. I say, niggas better ride for me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Don't pray.
Nipsey learned a lot from the works of Dr. Sebi and wanted all of us to eat better. He was also definitely 420 friendly, and as many people know, there are certainly healing qualities in natural marijuana if done properly. What a lot of people don't know is that marijuana was not always illegal. Younger people take it for granted that weed is illegal, but go back and research the movement against it in 1930s.
These high school boys and girls are having a hop at the local soda fountain. Innocently they dance. Innocent of a new and deadly menace lurking behind closed doors. Marijuana, the burning weed with its roots in hell.
Why are the 1930s important? Because this is when the massive pharmaceutical industry we know today started growing rapidly. Before then, natural remedies were common even among black folk. I've done writings in the past on how before the Civil War, our ancestors knew all the herbs and roots that heal everything. Among American slaves were all kinds of recipes for healing. If you read the slave journals, they describe this in great detail. White people came to them for healing when conventional doctors couldn't help. But right after the Civil War, ex-slaves described how white men in white lab coats, most likely from the North, since the South was devastated at this point, came house to house offering a white pill that is better than their herbs and roots, so they said. Of course, the ex-slaves at the time rejected these strange white pills, but 70 years later, those white pills took over the medical industry, and we've been sick ever since. Then a few decades later, brothers like Dick Gregory and Dr. Sebi came along to challenge that status quo. Both men disagreed with each other in certain areas, but both bucked the pharmaceutical system. Dr. Sebi proved on his own, in a case that went all the way to the New York Supreme Court in 1988, that his methods can indeed cure HIV and cancer. Ever since then, he was a marked man, so that about 13 years later, Left Eye would die indirectly as a result. In 2016, Sebi himself would be caught up in an international intrigue of trumped-up charges that landed him in jail, and not long afterwards, he died under mysterious circumstances. This is a great story to tell that we all learn from, and Nipsey was determined to tell it in a compelling documentary. And now he too died. Interestingly, a young lady who has been featured on Curve Monsters Glam on Instagram, based here in Dallas, posted a warning back in late February, a month before Nipsey's death, asking for people around him to protect him as she feared he might get killed for working on a documentary about Dr. Sebi. Was it prophetic? I'll let you be the judge, but she has receipts, as they like to say in social media. Joe Budden, on his popular podcast, had also discussed in February 2019 how risky it was to do this documentary. I highly encourage you, young and old, to learn from Nipsey about business and health so that as a community, we can become better at helping each other. Take care.